Anyway, learned that the hard way. So welcome everybody to this month's Desk Side Chat. We're excited to be joined by Stephanie DeArmond from JumpAI. And Stephanie and I have talked a lot over the last couple months, Stephanie, about JumpAI specifically. And we talked about how much that particular tool has been referenced in the community, how many people are using it, leveraging it. But you and I talked about starting off today's event by talking a little bit more generally about AI. We can get into some other tools before we jump into JumpAI, because one of the things that stood out as we talked was your mindset about the importance for advisors. Like when you talk to them, first and foremost is, let's focus on, first and foremost, this is important and, for your business, and let's see where it's going to make sense, and then get into, a specific demo. But before we jump into the topic at hand, if you could just, not everybody knows you, so if you could just do a quick introduction, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Stephanie. I am from the Jump team. I'm one of our enterprise account executives. The last 5 years prior to this, I spent my time in financial technology at more of a compliance and proposal solution. And over the last year, I've heard incredible feedback from advisors, specifically at conferences, online, about their experience using this tool called Jump. And it was really exciting to me, really interesting, and something I decided I needed to be a part of. So very recently, as of the end of January this last year, I made the transition over to Jump, and it's been really fun since to add some value to advisors, but more importantly, just hear feedback and brainstorm and think about this idea of AI and its importance in the industry, and kind of getting over the hump of like AI is just an idea to now it's like, we should definitely be implementing AI. And if you're not, you're sort of falling behind. So it's been fun.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And Stephanie had asked me yesterday, what's the format, what's the agenda, what questions do we have? And as all of you who are here know, we generally keep these pretty open, conversational. And I do have a list of questions and some things that I'd like to get into. But again, just want to encourage everybody, feel free to chime in, use the chat, or just unmute, and we'll kind of go in order of no raising hands, just unmute, and we'll bring in. So we've established, Stephanie, that AI is important for advisors, right? Where are you seeing the biggest wins as far as advisors who are jumping and adopting it? And one of the words that you used when we talked about the description for this was safely. You wanted me to include that. So if you can talk a little bit about why you felt it was important to include that word in the description.
Yeah, two-part question. Let's talk about value, and then let's talk about the importance of safety. I don't know if everyone in the room kind of remembers like the 2019, 2020 era when the idea of the robo-advisor was, everything in the media within the industry was like, oh, could the robo-advisor replace the advisor? And 5, almost 6 years later, no, the robo-advisor cannot replace the advisor, because there's that human element of relationships that this entire industry needs and relies on, especially with clients. So where I see the tremendous amount of value from an AI perspective is helping to automate the things that are not necessarily value producing to that client relationship, and sometimes archaic, but definitely necessary to keep the business afloat. So what I mean by that is, in many cases, admin related activities that you can streamline a process that used to take maybe a third of your day, to bubble all that down to 5 minutes so you can spend more time giving value back to clients. To do that effectively, though, you really have to think of the idea of how can I do this safely while I'm protecting all of my clients' private information, and more importantly, be comfortable from the regulatory body of the industry that we're in. So that's the two kind of aspects that I think of as an advisor. What are the things that you love to do, are fantastic at? In many cases, that's managing client relationships, deepening that client relationship, and trying to do that, at scale to many more relationships. But how can you support yourself to increase capacity, to bring on more clients, to add more value, to start doing new things? You've kind of got to either hire, buy, or adopt tools like AI to help streamline some of those admin things. Anyway, so long monologue there, but as it relates to all of those different things that advisors are already thinking about today, the biggest component is AI is here to stay. So really understanding how can we safely implement it, from once again protecting private client information and getting to a position where we're comfortable from a compliance perspective under the eyes of the regulatory body.
And actually, I want to get into that a little bit again, kind of expanding on that word safely. One of the things that surprised me, so we've obviously seen this a lot of noise, a lot of energy and information about AI. One of the things that surprised me was how quickly some firms approved some of these tools and things. So, what are you seeing specifically, things that advisors should be focused on, for their individual practices that, I'm not sure what, or maybe a better question is, why do you think that is, that these firms are so quick to, or quicker, it seems like, to pull the trigger on these things when, to your point, protecting client data is extremely important?
Yeah. I think the biggest aspect first, like, you think of these massive organizations, the largest independent broker-dealers who have adopted the idea of an AI assistant for all of their advisors and given the compliance approval to do so. The first and foremost, most important thing is the idea of how can you actually protect private client information, and ensuring that anything from social security numbers, account numbers can be redacted before it's ever put into any sort of call it model, if you will, from an AI perspective. The second is Jump specifically. I'd say why we have seen such tremendous growth, at least at the enterprise level. We have the widest range of compliance configuration options. So when you think of an AI assistant, there's various different ways that you can capture a meeting. Do you want to have actually hold on to the recording audio transcript of a meeting? That's fantastic. We'll help you capture that. Does recordings make you a little uncomfortable? Totally understand. We won't record. Do you not want even a transcript or any sort of audio file to go along with your meeting? You simply want summarization? Fantastic. We'll do some summary only. So I think the widest range of compliance configurations has helped these very large organizations feel very comfortable around what their philosophy is to bring on a tool like this. Also, I would add, from the value add perspective, from a compliance side of things, like, I'm sure a lot of the advisors we are speaking to today have some sort of necessary but archaic form or archaic process or archaic things that they have to document that takes a unbelievable amount of time to continue doing effectively for every client relationship. And so the idea of like, we can really use a tool that gathers all of this information so there's no gray area as to why a client's invested the way they are. And I think those two things, complete configurability around what makes you and your compliance process feel comfortable, and ensuring that it's going to add value and no gray area around that client relationship.
And I'm not sure if you're checking out the chat as we're going here, Stephanie, but we do have some active users in the room that wanted to talk about some best practices specifically and things. And I think we have some people here that have yet to start implementing certainly the JumpAI tool. Does anyone want to chime in here and help steer this on either side of that equation, or am I going to keep running things going forward? Who's first? Somebody. Derek is.
I would just, mine's a best practice situation. Is there a better way to utilize it on a phone call than it's clunky on a phone call to get it connected? Because a lot of times, like a client calls in and I'm just talking to them, then I have to tell the client to hold to kind of connect.
Just a moment, I've got to click 3 buttons. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just, trying to understand, maybe is there a best practice, or just food for thought? Because right or wrong, not every one of my meetings is a Zoom meeting where it connects nice and cleanly. I do a lot of phone calls, especially because my overall practice is the people that I talk to on a regular basis are older clients. And therefore that's where the clunkiness comes in. I've had 2 phone calls today that were not on Jump because we had conversations over the phone that 15, 20 minutes. Would have loved to capture it all correctly for my own note taking, follow up, and all the other wonderful things that it does. So just asking for any workarounds, any best practices in that equation.
So, Derek, I'm going to give you 2 responses. The first is, I am so excited that you're using Jump so avidly that you're like, ugh, these couple of phone calls are such a pain to get it connected and I need my notes. So I love that. Secondly, I will say that's a more seamless process for having Jump join your phone call is one of our most requested features in general. So we have designated product managers that are focused on solving that. Without getting too into the weeds, and we can take this offline because I certainly will walk you through what the best practice is around what other technology you're using. But we have started rolling out integrations too with other VoIP phone services that are kind of online-based phone services that make it a lot more seamless. And so if it's okay with you, Derek, I will share my personal contact information with you after to understand what all you're using and if we can make it more integrated.
All right, wonderful, perfect.
And actually, on the phone topic, and we won't mention any firm names, but are there firms that approve Jump for Zoom but don't approve over phone?
There are, so yes, the easiest answer to that is yes. And the reason for it is varying levels of comfortability. If they maybe are already using a VoIP system that is capturing phone calls, then it's very easy to adopt that. So it's just at an enterprise level, how can they continue to manage their safety of their users and tracking things if they potentially don't already have a process for that? I will say all of our enterprise partners, though, if they didn't approve it initially when they rolled out the partnership, they are working towards having it approved. So it's super interesting for me coming from the tech side where historically what I've seen in this space is when enterprises approve a technology for their advisors, it's a bit set in stone by the time they roll it out. And they don't necessarily keep making iterations and approving, existing functionality that they didn't approve initially. In this space, it's been super fascinating to watch because the idea is how can we get this add immediate value to our advisors in the safest and fastest way as possible and continue to add these additional components as we get comfortable with it. There's different compliance processes in place, et cetera. So I will say if they haven't approved it yet, they plan to.
Well, I was just typing in the chat, but I'll just say this out loud. If somebody has a question or comment they want me to ask, feel free to add that to the chat as well as we get into this a little bit. But
John,
yeah, go ahead.
I was not completely reading the chat, but there's a couple different
You don't have to, like you said, you can follow up with people afterwards.
Okay.
I'll share that with you. We have note takers for that afterwards.
Yeah, that's right. But there's a couple interesting things that I've at least seen is some advisors might not be using an AI note taker and they're a little bit skeptical. And so I'm curious if there's any users in the room that were in that position before they made the decision to bring on an AI note taker that would be willing to share.
I know Tom.
Can you say the first part of that question again?
Yeah, so there are many advisors not using a note taker today that are a bit skeptical and certainly have questions. I'm curious to know if there's any users of an AI note taker in the room that were in that position where they were skeptical and moved forward and what their experience was.
I wasn't skeptical, but I'm an independent hybrid. And any software that we use, we just have to report into the broker-dealer. And it took me about 3 months of back and forth to get it client approved. So I wasn't skeptical. They certainly were, but did their due diligence. They did end up approving it as a unintegrated independent approval. But it's absolutely, I agree with Nick's comment. It is the best tech tool. I mean, you get immediate lift from it. It's not one of these where if you implement it 3 months later, you'll have lift. You'll have lift the very first time you use it because you're saving time in the note taking and right, assigning the to-dos and so forth.
I'll jump on and back that a little bit. I wasn't skeptical. I was leery under it, was like, oh my gosh, another thing. Are you kidding me? Another thing. I am still in the trial phase. I don't have it fully integrated yet. I did a first meeting and then it worked where it sent me the summary. And there were borderline tears. It was so complete how it was. It was like, where have you been all my life? What am I
There
waiting?
was a video. We've talked about that. There was I shared that with Stephanie.
It's mind blowing.
There was a tear video on that.
It's incredible.
When I was saying seriously, over the last year, I absolutely loved the company I was with formerly, and I'm still very excited about what they're doing. But I would go to events and people would share, like, you don't understand. Like, my wife loves me more. Like, there's all kinds of just like stories that they would share and like just so much excitement about. I'm like, what is this about? So when John and I started talking, he's like, have you seen that video? It's like a 3-second clip and there's literal tears. It's like, so anyway, it's not the first I've heard that feedback, Katie, but I love it.
Yeah, it's just amazing how much it captures. And then I did another one as a trial. I've only done it on Zoom. I haven't tried the phone call part of it yet. I went to the old habit of like, I have to take notes, right? And kind of forgot and was like, oh, wait, no, I don't have to. And then came back and was trying to take notes again and then forgot and whatever, the whole thing. And then again, at the end, I thought this captured so much more than I could have ever captured trying to remember to take notes. So it's wonderful. It's amazing.
Have you ever, do you remember the last movie you watched for the second time? And you're like, oh, I just I missed that.
Right.
But then you have a realization like, wow, that's crazy. That sometimes going back, reading the accuracy and just thoroughness of the notes, you're like, oh, I'm glad that picked it up because I didn't write that on my scratch pad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell clients when I disclose that it's being recorded or that, getting their approval basically, or they're okay, is that it allows me to be fully present in the conversation and not have to pause to take notes. And I have not had anybody say no. And I use it in my consulting business. I use it with my financial planning clients. I record all of our team meetings. So, I mean, it's hours upon hours a week that it has saved me. And I'll just put out there, I think there's something that you can do with templates, like you can set up your own note template or something. That's the piece I haven't explored yet. So if maybe in this call, if others are interested in how to kind of customize it to your needs, that would be great to cover.
Not that I oversold this or ever do that, but I had told Steph, if this one goes well, we can bring her back or somebody from Jump and do recurring or do some additional things. Because, especially as the tool evolves, there's going to be additional best practices. But I'll let you answer that one, Stephanie.
Yeah, gosh, today I really love 2-part answers. So here I go, Dawn. Sorry. The idea of Jump, we wanted to build something that was immediate, like could provide immediate value. And so as to what you shared, as soon as you log into the tool, you capture your first meeting, you're like, whoa, we've got incredible notes, the follow-up email tasks. However, we're highly customizable. So I will say 95% of advisors are like, these notes are better than I would have taken. The other 5% are like, wait a minute, it would be great if we could add some, maybe trim some, make it more concise, like make some changes. We have a designated team that will meet with you one-on-one to understand what do you want it to look like. We turn it into the tool and you'll have it back in 24 hours.
And that for someone that I've recently adapted it, we started it in mid-March. It was rolled out. I'm at Osaic, not LPL, so it was rolled out to Osaic reps in mid-March. It was introduced to us. I was at the resource conference, resource group conference in Scottsdale when it was rolled out, and some people that were doing trial runs then. What was amazing me for we're in a large bar room for a general session and doing the note taking just from the general session to capture the notes, having those from a speaker that was actually speaking at a very East Coast tone and pace, which was fascinating how accurate the notes were I signed up as we're doing there for the rest of the meeting to do my own note taking for the general sessions, things of that nature, implemented. I'm at the point of, I don't know how I know I'm not using it to its full capabilities. I need to customize it for my liking. Well, better. My note taking always, my note taking for my CRM was always subpar because is one of the things that I hate doing. So for me, the notes are even better now, obviously. The other part is I got rid of my dictation service because now I use this as my dictation service. I just record a note off a phone call like I would my dictation service. This is a dictation note. Is how I usually start it. Spoke with, and I just do it the same way. And then I assign it to the client and makes it a little bit cleaner and easier. Saves me the $20, whatever it was a month that I just applied to the cost of the Jump app because it now does both for me. But I do know I have to get back in there and figure out the customization to work better for my practice, how I communicate. And I've had no pushback. One of my clients says it's about time because he's in the CRM AI technology space within the healthcare industry. And so he's very familiar with all this stuff. And he's like, I was wondering when you're going to actually do it. I'm like, we have a little bit more compliance issues than you do in the healthcare industry. And he just laughed. So, but again, if you're not using it, I would tell you to attempt the free trial. As they only approved 2 vendors. Jump was one of them.
Yeah. There's a couple interesting things that you shared, Derek. The first is the parallelism to the healthcare industry. When the idea of protecting private client information, HIPAA regulation is the gold standard of such for medical professionals. And so Jump specifically, another kind of layer of how can we get comfortable with how you protect private client information? Not only are we SOC 2 certified specific to the financial industry, but we actually follow HIPAA regulation for protecting the private client info. The second thing that you shared, which is super interesting too, and this kind of has parallelism with some of the folks that are like, I'm a little skeptical. What if my clients aren't comfortable with this, etc. I don't know when the last time everyone here has gone to the doctors, and I don't know if this is the same in every part of the country, but super interesting. My last doctor's appointment, and I had heard this from someone else at the company prior to me going, the doctor comes in and is like, hey, are you comfortable if I have my note taker join us? I'd like to be sure I'm present for everything you share today. Well, obviously doing what I do, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. But I just thought it was so interesting. Even the idea of this note taker and presence is so much greater than just what we're doing. That's more in clients' everyday lives too. So,
Tracy, you unmuted. Did you want to chime in?
Yeah, mine's, when I tried to use it using Zoom, it didn't start it because nobody entered the room. So is there a better way of recording, or do you have to go through Zoom? And then how do you tell it to start recording before anybody enters the Zoom room?
So I will say, if you have Jump set up, there is a setting that you can set to have the note taker automatically attend all of your web-based conference meetings. On your upcoming tab, you'll see it's toggled on for all of your meetings. If there's a meeting that you say, no, I don't want my note taker going, you can toggle it off. Once you're in the Zoom meeting, there is a setting that you can configure, but it's standard for all of our users, that the note taker will join 2 minutes before the beginning of the meeting. With Zoom, if you're the owner, the note taker will automatically join. If someone else is the owner, then it'll go to the waiting room. That makes sense?
Yeah, so if I'm going to make a phone call and I think, I want to record this phone call, then do I go into Zoom and then we'll see nobody's going to come in, or do I need to put it on my calendar to where it'll know what time the 2 minutes that it starts recording would be?
For phone calls or web-based conferencing?
For phone calls, I want to talk to somebody, not Zoom.
Yeah. So this is what Derek was just talking about at the beginning. We have a feature called Join My Call, and it might be helpful too, Tracy, if I connect with you specifically after this to walk through exactly how to use that tool.
Mhm.
But I think that will answer your question.
Okay. And then I can also use it, what if, if I'm having a meeting, in the conference room, and to where I can push a button and note take for the meeting.
Do you have the mobile app? Because that's the two things the mobile app does: join phone calls and capture.
Well, when you call, I have other problems that nobody else is going to be interested in, and maybe
we'll take it offline. Deal.
Yeah.
Where else do we want to go? Well, I have lots of stuff, but go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah. So Stephanie, you're available to help us out, because I've been using it for 2 months. I just need some fine tuning with it. Like, one of my staff's complaints was when we used to use copy talk, at the end I would say, do this, this, and this. And now she's going, I got to read through all these notes to figure out exactly what I'm doing. So it sounds like there's some setting I need to do that will help out, where they can see, do this and this, instead of reading through everything.
You can set it up, Jamie, where tasks auto-populate. They should already be auto-populating on the right-hand side of your screen. However, if she wants it as part of the notes to have, staff to-dos and list them there as well, that's a super easy customization we can do for you.
So I can connect with you later to help me with that?
Yeah.
Is LPL allowed to do the phone call stuff with Jump yet?
That's one of them. So not quite, not yet, but we are very.
Okay. That's last what I heard from Jump was they're in the process, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll send them the replay of this.
Yeah, they are.
We'll push them.
They are very excited. It's so interesting. Like LPL moves so efficiently, and just we've had tremendous success from
because you're not a money manager. You should see somebody who's trying to get on that manages money. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I guess so. The compliance team at LPL is like, we're heroes, instead of having to bark at advisors to do things differently. It's like, look at this great tool that we gave you access to. Anyhow, but that's one of the examples where the idea is, let's get it out as quickly as possible so we can add value to our advisors and continue working on getting other highly requested things added in a compliant manner.
So kind of for the room, but also, maybe for you, Stephanie. So how often are you seeing clients push back? So you mentioned the doctor's appointment where you're just like, yeah, go ahead, no problem. I'm curious how often you're hearing that, anecdotally, or anyone in the room, if they've experienced that. I think Derek may have ducked out, but I'd be curious to hear anyone who's getting, who's experienced pushback from clients.
I've had pushback.
Have you, Tom?
I had one pushback, and I told them watch, and then I turned it off at the end of the meeting, and then we reviewed it together, and they said, okay, I can delete it if you want, and they said, no, this is good. So I let them see the result of it after it put it all together, because it didn't take very long. So it is amazing, because I'm sending them a summary of the meeting within minutes after the meeting, and then I connected my CRM to it, and then I assign activities to my staff to do the activities. Freaking ridiculous. Every time I talk to
Tom's gonna
on the
cry
phone
now.
here,
Yeah.
every time I talk to the phone, I learn more things. It's I don't know where this has been. And then if I talk to my corporate world clients, they're like, welcome to the new century, because they've already been using it.
That's a good point. I'll share anecdotally from the Jump side. We do not hear pushback from clients very frequently. Well, let me rephrase that. It's a concern that naturally, I'd say the majority of advisors before they use Jump have, and it's a question they ask. We have not heard very much pushback from advisors specifically, but I think why that is the advisor knows, your clients much better than we do. So if you have that one client that's like, absolutely not, I don't want, I go to the airport and I ask to give my ID instead of using that clear, take a picture of you thing. And if you understand their personalities, if they're not going to be comfortable with it, maybe you introduce it, but more importantly, you'll dictate to the tool right after, and you'll still get the same structure of notes, follow-up emails, tasks, etc. I will say something that has helped advisors feel comfortable, clients feel comfortable, you are in complete control of that meeting. When it starts, when it's paused, when it stops. If at all, at any point when you're having the discussion with the client, starts getting sometimes we're therapists, right? And if it starts getting into more of a therapy session versus like the financial advice aspect, then feel free to pause or end the note taking, and none of that's captured. So I think having that flexibility too, that, we're in complete control over what's captured for my notes, is helped with it as well. I like Tom's take on it though. Like, well, let's just see what it does.
Well, isn't there
I'm in sales. I adapt everything and go with it. If it doesn't work out, I cancel.
Yeah, amen.
There's a setting though, right, Stephanie, where you can auto send the notes to the participants, right? So, right? Isn't there a way to do that automatically? There's a way to set the notes up to go to team members on your side. We're never going to send anything to a client without you reviewing and manually sending it. Same with your CRM. We'll never. I was going to say that probably is a compliance thing. I can imagine they wouldn't be as comfortable.
John, that was the number one compliance recommendation: is before you sync it to your CRM, review the note taking and what's being synced. I've had very little things like my meeting yesterday. There were unsolicited trades because it was a younger client and she wanted to learn about if some individual stocks are pooled. The note taker did not capture unsolicited trade. They said recommendation, so I made that adjustment in that before I connected it. And the only other one was the wife logged in using the husband's Zoom account. So it came up that our conversation was John instead of Tracy. And I was like, all the way through, I was like, I had to remove John and put Tracy. But it was a little nuance just because of the computer she logged into for Zoom read John, just from the family account, not her. And I was meeting with her, not John. So little nuances, but things that are very easily explainable and easy to adjust before I connect anything to Redtail. Because realize Redtail, once it's connected to Redtail, if you ever get sued and you need to go to arbitration, that note is can be a pulled document on either side of the equation.
System of record. Yeah. So to the firm comfortability side of things as well, there are varying levels of like, yes, I have reviewed and ensured these notes are accurate before syncing to my CRM that various different firms will have. But we're specifically designed to have the human in the loop. So we're going to surface all of these for you. But the last thing you want is us spelling, Susie with 4 Z's instead of 1, because that's her phonetic spelling of name. Or to Derek's point, missing unsolicited and putting it as recommended. Yeah.
Or learning some of this stuff. Derek, I think it might have been back when we were at Jackson. It was at some point we were using Salesforce and I had advisor segmentation. I no longer do A, B, and C. I was doing A, B, and C. And I didn't realize when I put notes in, it was auto sending an email. And somebody gets like, why does this say C? I'm like, because you're a catch of an advisor. I don't know. I had to so I use different terminology for segmentation just in case. But anyway, that's another story.
I've got a question on usage. So do very many people maybe use it to record when they call home office and, maybe trying to get something done? Because a lot of times we get the wrong answer the first time we got to call back, to just have like what the customer service person told us. And then when we do it, to have those notes.
That's a good question. Specifically, I've never been asked that, but I will say when we do have advisors using it to call any sort of service, because in many cases, they're going to explain like, oh, here's how you do it very quickly. And it's not like they're holding your hand to solve whatever problem you're having. So it's nice to actually have the step-by-step note of what they're recommending. The accountability factor of your question, I don't know. I'm sure they do use it for that too, but I haven't heard. Mm-hmm.
I haven't used it for that. I actually kind of like the idea of it. I think it's key that you have to disclose that you're recording it. In many home offices, when you're calling in, they're already recording, right, as well. So and most of them say this call is being recorded for training purposes, quality assurance, etc. That I would just say you would need to disclose it.
So we're going to wrap up the live stream portion, and we'll go to the member only backstage pass. But before we do, I've gotten a couple of notes here, Stephanie. People want to circle back and follow up with you. So if you could share best way to get in touch with you for anyone who's watching this outside of the community that wants to learn more and start diving into the tool.
Yes, my email, obviously it's on LinkedIn. Feel free to message me on LinkedIn. Super, I'll respond with a link to my calendar. We can set up some time to discuss whatever we want to talk about. I just put my email into the Zoom chat. Does that feed into LinkedIn?
No, but I can put it on the LinkedIn, or I can comment on LinkedIn and put that on there.
It's very simple. It's Stephanie. It's PH and an
I think I could even remember this. I see it. Okay.
At JumpApp.com. So
Stephanie at JumpApp.com.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
2 P's.
Yeah. No, definitely not. Just one.
What? No, I mean Jump App or.
Oh, yes. Jump App. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Just trying to be funny. And then so we'll go ahead and stop the live stream. But for anyone who's not yet a member of the Good Advisors community, we do have a special offer Stephanie had set up for us with Jump, and I'm happy to share that. So reach out to me if you're interested in taking advantage of that. Otherwise, for those of you who are already part of the Good Advisors community, we'll be posting the link alongside the replay in the group. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. We're going to stop the